Most people never rise, not because they lack talent, not because opportunity avoided them, not because destiny was cruel, but because they quietly agreed to a life beneath their potential. They made 1,000 small compromises with comfort. They let fear negotiate their decisions. They allowed the noise of the world to drown out the whisper of who they could become. And over time, that whisper faded into silence. Rising is not accidental. Rising is not granted. Rising is claimed. The world does not lift you. It weighs you. It tests you. It distracts you. It offers convenience in exchange for your ambition and applause in exchange for your integrity. And most people accept the trade without realizing the cost. They wake up already behind. They move through the day reacting. They fall asleep promising tomorrow will be different. Then tomorrow arrives wearing the same habits. And so they remain where they are. But you, right now, are standing at a different threshold. Because to rise, the first thing you must do is see clearly why others do not. You must look without judgment and without denial at the invisible forces that keep people grounded, average, stuck. Only then can you step beyond them. The first force is drift. Napoleon Hill warned that drifting is the most common cause of failure and the least recognized. Drift is living without a defined aim. It is waking without direction and moving without command. It is letting circumstances decide your schedule, your mood, your priorities. Drift feels harmless because it is comfortable, but drift is lethal to greatness. A drifting mind avoids responsibility. A drifting life avoids discomfort. A drifting person avoids the discipline required to rise. History does not remember drifters. It remembers those who decided. Andrew Carnegie did not drift into steel. He decided. Henry Ford did not drift into industry. He decided. Lincoln did not drift into leadership. He decided again and again through loss, ridicule, and defeat. Rising begins when drift ends. The second force is fear, disguised as reason. Most people do not say, "I am afraid." They say, "It's not the right time." They say, "I need more information." They say, "I should be realistic." Fear dresses itself in logic and calls it wisdom, but fear's true job is to keep you where you are. Fear hates movement. Fear hates change. Fear hates growth. It tells you to wait until you feel ready. But readiness is a reward of action, not a prerequisite. Edison did not feel ready through thousands of failures. He moved anyway. Disney did not feel secure through bankruptcy and rejection. He created anyway. Rising does not require the absence of fear. It requires mastery over it. The third force is comparison. The world trains you to measure yourself against others, to look sideways instead of inward, to count their progress instead of committing to your own. Comparison weakens focus. It fractures identity. It turns your unique path into a distorted imitation. You are not designed to rise like anyone else. You are designed to rise as you. When you compare, you surrender your rhythm. You rush when you should build. You hesitate when you should leap. You chase approval instead of alignment. Carnegie did not compare his beginnings to Rockefeller's. Ford did not compare his critics to his vision. They listened inward. Rising demands the same discipline. The fourth force is indecision. Indecision is the quiet killer of momentum. It feels safe because it postpones risk, but indecision is a decision to stay where you are. Every moment you hesitate, you reinforce an identity that avoids ownership, and identity always determines outcome. Decisive people move forward imperfectly. Indecisive people wait for perfection and never move. Rising requires commitment. Commitment to a direction, to a standard, to a future that does not yet exist. Hill called this a definite chief aim. Without it, effort scatters, energy leaks, potential expires unused. The fifth force is discipline delayed. Most people believe discipline should arrive with motivation, but motivation is unreliable. Discipline is structural. It is the architecture of rising. It is the daily enforcement of standards regardless of mood. It is choosing what you said you wanted yesterday, even when today feels heavy. The world is filled with talented people who lacked discipline for one season too long, and that season became a lifetime. Rising begins when discipline becomes identity. This is where the separation occurs. This is where the few diverge from the many. Because while most people are waiting for permission, for confidence, for certainty, you are learning the law beneath all success. The inner world creates the outer one. Your thoughts are not harmless. Your habits are not neutral. Your standards are not flexible. They are builders or destroyers. To rise, you must take command of your mind. You must choose belief over doubt, clarity over confusion, purpose over drift. You must define what you are willing to suffer for, what you are willing to sacrifice, what you are unwilling to tolerate any longer. Rising is not a moment. It is a posture. And once you adopt that posture, once your inner world aligns with intention, everything begins to change. The resistance does not disappear, but it loses authority. The obstacles do not vanish, but they become instructions. The fear does not leave, but it no longer leads. Most people never rise because they never decide to become the person who could.